This is a Podstar production.
P.S. Karen, I think that, usually I like pull people in and kind of tee up the intro. I think today you got to do that.
I hate that. I didn't take notes.
All you have to say is welcome to the Separated Birth Podcast. I'm your host, Karen Burke-Brown, and with my bestie for the restie, and then I'll say my name.
I don't want to.
Oh, Christ's sake. All right.
I'm like,
All right, I'm going to pass it. I'm passing the baton straight to you because this episode, you're going to have to drive.
I needed notes. God,
you don't need notes.
I do.
You know everything about me. Hey friends, welcome to the Separated at Birth podcast with your hosts Katie Martin and Karen Burke-Brown. This is the podcast where we find alignment in the most unlikely places, proving that lightning can strike anywhere at any time. We'll weave together a world of middle-aged empowerment as single moms, businesswomen, and creatives. Finding alignment, navigating relationships after divorce, raising kids, building businesses in the creative space, and doing the hard work of unearthing our very best selves in the process and having a lot of mother effing opinions about it. We're so stoked to have you here, so let's go. Let's get into the episode. Hey friends, welcome to the Separated Birth Podcast. I'm your host, Katie Martin, and I'm with my bestie for the restie, my twin from another mister, the one and only Karen Burke-Brown.
Can we talk about our bloody fingers today and how?
We both have bloody knuckles. I feel like this episode is going to be bloody knuckles.
Maybe. Not like bloody knuckles dragging knuckles, but
I've been dreading this one, no lie.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
I have a lot of, I just have a lot of just like nervous energy, I think, going into this, just because like you totally crushed your version of this episode and did such a wonderful job. I just feel like, especially with growing the social media account that I have and like understanding the level of invasiveness that I feel at times with people just being so brazen with the level of questioning that I get. Like, I mean, they want to know everything down to my breakfast and bra size. So I've learned to keep my private life very private, and it's something that I guard very privately. I mean, having a relationship like a boyfriend or whatever that I share on social media, doing that in the past just invites this level of like people needing to know everything about it
though, because whether you want to call yourself an influencer or not, or you often come on with no makeup, we've had that conversation before, that's still a level of vulnerability that I think women appreciate, your audience as a whole. And so there's this fine line that we discuss a lot about what you want people to know, what you want them to think that they know. And so people have this understanding. They think that they know, oh, well, I do know her bra size. I do know that she went through, these
Yes, I want to be relatable, and I want to be transparent, and I want to be honest, and I want to be, but I also I'm a human being, and I have to have boundaries. So just because I choose not to share something about my life doesn't mean that I'm only giving you the highlights.
And social media, as we know, is, it can be more of like it's not transparent. Some people say it's, I'm here to be so transparent and honest.
It's a very augmented version of reality.
That's too honest, or I don't want to know if you took a shit this morning, or I don't want to know what happened to your dog or whatever. They just want the truth. So you're trying to find that line. And so,
and for me, I will just say, like, as of a couple of years ago, I was just like, no more personal life, just zero, absolutely zero. I shut the door, closed the door, locked the door, threw away the key. And then again, I'm also very guarded about my kids. They didn't ask for any of this. And I know that I respect their privacy. They're in, two of them are teenagers, and it's just it's a tough fine line, because that's my work life and it is what I choose to share, but it's not what they choose to share. So again,
And there's
just
also safety.
feeling respect for everyone else that's in my life and how exposed they feel as well. So this episode is like, I am not interested in exposing anybody. I'm only here to talk about my experience and how that can be relatable to other people, but mostly I think it's important that we do this because it is so critical in terms of how our friendship was fostered and formulated. So our level of intimacy in our friendship was birthed through these moments of the relationship struggles that I had and that you have had, and that common ground, and then the understanding and navigating those very murky waters.
How it continues to bond us, and
it does,
walking through the healing and knowing and recognizing certain things about each other and what is and isn't possible. Or, and we talk about healing, it's not it's a journey. It's not linear. It's, you think you're great, and then all of a sudden you're like, motherfucker, I'm losing
I'm spiraling. So, right.
And that, to kind of go back to what we introed with, which is, we're just going to talk about, a little bit of your background and the history of how we met, and not how we met, but what does continue to bond us. And
I think that as long as we keep the conversation there, then I won't feel so exposed, and I won't feel so nervous that I'm like, I have no interest in throwing anyone under the bus, because I do truly believe that nothing happens to you, it happens for you. And so all of these experiences, however negative or however hard or however traumatic they were all for me. It led me to you. It led me to the life that I live. It led me to connecting with women in the way that I do it. It just, so I don't consider myself a victim in any way. This is all part of my path,
Everything is a lesson.
Completely.
And the universe will keep bringing.
And sometimes it's a lesson you have to learn 50 fucking times. Yeah. It's like, you never, and that's I think the other piece is, it's like when you feel like you're attracting a certain thing into your life and it keeps happening, it keeps manifesting in different ways, and it just sort of creeps up on you, and you're like, God damn it, this is the same thing that had happened in my last relationship, and here it is again, but just kind of a little bit skewed. To me, I'm like, how am I not seeing this coming? You know what I mean? Like it's dressed up in a different outfit, but it really is the same shitbag. It's, and so, my business and life coach, Casey, who we talked about a lot, and she, who Casey is, she's like, Katie, this is one of those things that's like, you're keep getting served this dish, this lesson, until you learn it. It's going to keep happening until you learn it. And you could be still doing this shit at 85 years old. I hope not. But again, that scares me.
You get to choose. Yeah, but you choose it. Well, so, okay.
All right.
Being super vague and kind of.
I know, we've been beating around the bush, and everybody's like, will you just tell us the juicy shit already?
So, you were married. We know that you have 3 kids, because we do share that in common. So, and I'm not here to necessarily, Oprah you or J-Lo you or anything like that, but definitely, kind of bring out that
it wasn't a perfect marriage. I mean, I think, my ex-husband and I have an amazing relationship, one that I'm really proud of. If there's any relationship that I have currently in my life that I'm actually so proud of, it is that one, because we do co-parent so beautifully, and it is work. I feel like at this point, in our lives, we've known each other for so long. It's like we're family. I'm his like annoying, sister at this point. There's no romantic love or anything like that, but we have a lot of respect for each other, and we realize that
it takes work.
It does.
How many people do you know that are like this with an ex-husband, an ex-lover, anything, that they're like, I wish that guy would fucking die?
Yeah.
I know people very close to me that I don't have the energy for that. And of course I've felt that before, but I'm sure at a time you probably had those feelings, but knowing that long term that wasn't going to serve you or your children. But But it's
No, I mean
that
like
takes work.
literally when we were kind of first separating, it was really just I remember saying to him like don't fight for me, but don't fight against me. We just it was almost like we took new vows. It was like,
Mhm.
hey, we're going to take these vows of friendship that we're going to have each other's back. We're going to co-parent beautifully. We're going to put our kids' needs before our own, and we're just going to soldier on. And there
I love
doesn't
that.
have to be beef because the when you have a lot of beef, the people that pay the dearly for it are your kids. And
Right.
so we just always had that clarity, even in the worst of the like heartbreaking part of it, because it was so heartbreaking. But at the same time, it was just we really did adopt a level of maturity that I'm so proud of. And I can't even tell you how many women in my life come to me and they're like, Katie, I'm getting a divorce. How the hell did you manage that to pull this off with your
Didn't
ex-husband?
happen
Like we
overnight.
admire and respect your relationship so much, but I realize that that's not always the case for so many people, and that really is heartbreaking because there's a lot of circumstances that just you don't get an opportunity to forge that friendship after.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're like Bruce and Demi. We're like that's the relationship we have. We will always, even if he ended up getting remarried or whatever, or I did at some point, like he would, we're just tight like that. So I'm so proud of
That
that.
I could see that he would be like, okay, what time do I need to drop the kids off? And I'll pick up the bouquet.
Oh
I could see
yeah,
him being cool like that.
yeah.
Like he's a helper and he's
Short of
always going,
walking me down the aisle, I think like
hey, brother,
we pretty
sister.
much have that relationship. And again, it's just something I'm so proud of, and it did take a lot of we both ate our fair share of shit sandwiches to get there. So, but you know, I can look back in my life and be like, man, even in the divorce, I still feel like we got it right. Which is kind of a weird silver lining.
And then how long did you wait until you started dating after your divorce?
Uh, it's kind of a blur.
Isn't it? I
Mm-hmm.
relate. Hmm.
So it was an interesting situation. Like we were separated for a year. It was almost like we forgot to get the paperwork signed. It was like more
Hmm.
than a year. And so we were both kind of living our lives and kind of going about our business. And so yeah, I dated a little bit, probably within 8 or 9 months. Nothing really serious, but
Yeah.
just, you know.
And then did you notice that, like, do you feel like you carried that into your relationships, like carried the problems from your marriage, or what you learned and you're like, okay, I know what I don't want? Because that's what they say about dating is this great opportunity to see what you don't want as well as to see what you do want. And you're like, okay, check that off the list. Okay, I like 8 of the 10 things, but these two are deal breakers.
Um,
So you know what I'm saying? Like, how do you feel like that dating process was because you really were looking for a partner, or you felt healed? You felt like, all right, I want to keep this train moving, and I'm eligible, and I know there's a lot of questions
if
out
I'm
there.
really, really, really brutally honest, I had such a level of bitterness and in my heart at that time.
Mhm.
I was
Yeah.
just like, really, it was more of I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to do what I want. It was like, I was
Hmm.
angry. I was angry.
Angry that the marriage ended, angry how it ended.
Yeah, I mean
Just
just angry, just bitter, angry, sad. It was just like I would wax and wane in between. I mean, it was like a alphabet soup of emotion. And I
you
think
were
that
like
I was just
angry dating.
like it was just like I don't care. It was just
Yeah.
I felt like I was sort of like a defiant teenager there for the first year, I would say. Just like
Yeah.
looking back, that was not my finest hour. Just I in the way that my heart felt so dark,
I get it.
you know. So I really don't think that I was probably showing up in even in the dating world very well,
But
just
then
because I was not good. I just wasn't good.
you weren't showing up in a way that you would want to
There
date
was
you.
no way that with the way that I was feeling that was going to be the foundation of something amazing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I don't think that would have not given way to something really beautiful and organic because I was just bitter and pissed and hurt.
Still healing
Yeah.
in a place
Yeah.
where you were just like still raw, I'm sure. Well, and then you went on, then you dated, got serious with several different people.
I had like three um relationships that were over a year long, about two
Were they
years
the couch
apiece.
surfers, all of them, or
What's that?
the couch surfers? Can I say that?
Yes, you can.
Sorry.
I have a penchant for attracting a broke man.
Mm-hmm.
So
You're
I
saying
feel
broken bank
like
account,
I
broken spirit, broke
yes.
in all of those ways.
And these individuals were did not live in where I lived. I think there was something kind of alluring about like that they weren't from my town, because I lived in a small town, and
Yeah.
there's a gossip train that goes into that. And also, you just see a lot of like people breaking up and then everyone's sleeping with each other. Like their
Mm-hmm.
husbands and wives and exes are all kind of in a mixing pot of like
Yeah.
this local stew. And I'm like, I don't want anything to do with that. Like if I'm going to date anybody, it's going to be someone that lives far, far away and nobody knows who they are and except me.
I want to go to the
So
private pool of men, not the community pool at the
yeah,
YMCA.
and so that attracted me more than like anything that was in my backyard.
Yeah, I get.
So they were like distance relationships, but again, and I feel like maybe that felt safer for me because there was this, nobody was under my feet, so to speak.
Yeah.
I could still be a mom and still have my life and whatever, but I also will say that keeping those types of relationships alive, maybe it felt a little bit exciting to like get on a plane and go and have a weekend somewhere and, just escape maybe my real life.
I can do that.
That felt kind of alluring, even though the relationship itself was shitty.
Yes.
And
it pulls you into thinking it's something really great.
It felt sexy, but
Because
it really it felt very jet setty, but it was really just awful. It was so bad. And I think, if I've learned nothing more, it's that, the old saying, believe who someone is the first time they show you. Oh, I've ignored that so many times where it's just like, oh, I'll make an excuse like, oh, they're just having a shitty day or whatever. You ignore the red flags. And I had
so hard to believe. You're like, no. I see the best in you. This is going to work out. This is so great. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I've done that repeatedly, ignored red flags.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and then more red flags, right? And then
many.
Yeah.
A field of red flags. Fields of them. And I think really the other thing that just, when I look back, if I get emotional because those were the years when my babies were little.
Yeah.
And I was trading time away from them to go invest in a relationship that I knew was inherently wrong for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I was just escaping my pain
mm-hmm.
in a way. And then I just missed out.
There's a lot of guilt.
There's a lot.
Again, I say this because I can relate, and
because I was on planes. I was gone for weekends. Again, it was a custody situation, so I felt like I had permission to do that. Like, hey, it's not my turn to have my kids. So what am I going to do with these 5 days? Am I going to sit at home, or am I going to get on a plane and go fly and hang out with my boyfriend? And I look back and I feel like, how could you trade time, which is the only thing you have, with these perfect humans that mean more to you than anything, for some shitbag, a few states away?
But can
I beat myself up about that now.
I mean, I can say this again because I've been there, and I go back and forth because I was in a marriage like that. You have to give yourself grace. You have to now I'm going to start crying. You have to forgive yourself for making the decisions that you made, knowing what you knew at the time. Even if your gut was saying like, I know deep down, you still believed what you thought was right, and loving a person and receiving love and knowing that you were coming from a hurt place.
Yeah.
So, and knowing that your kids will figure it out. And that's how I brought kind of peace to myself in the situation where you did what you thought was best. And if you continue to feel guilt over that, moments of guilt, like that momentary, the passing, like, I think that's fine. But to live in that space is it's so detrimental to having a healthy sort of spirit and outcome and outlook, because you can get stuck in that, because this is our first time being alive too. I try to tell my kids that, like, hey,
we didn't get handed a playbook and be like, this is how to do it right.
I've been a parent 3 times, but it's still my first time alive. It's not, so you have to give yourself grace, then they will too. That's all I'm going to say. But I know what you're talking about. I still feel that, but I feel like it can still be raw, because you feel like, and now my kids are grown and I spent time with this jackass when I could have been hanging out, soaking up my kids.
That's right.
I know.
That's right. All the many weekends I missed. Yeah. Again, I can sit here and rationalize it, that again, it wasn't my turn to have them, so I wouldn't have seen them anyway. I needed to do something with my time. But I think at the end of the day, it was just a poor investment of my time all around. I would have been better off to stay home and work, or stay home and hang with my girlfriends, or work on myself, And
you thought you were working on yourself at the time,
Yeah, right. Exactly. I thought that, I think the lies we tell ourselves, and if I could just impart any knowledge or any live and learn to our audience, which is no relationship is perfect, but no relationship is worth constantly saying to yourself, well, no relationship is perfect.
Right.
If you're saying no relationship is perfect every fucking day, and you're walking on eggshells around somebody, or you're making an eternally long list of excuses for someone's behavior, then you have got to get the fuck up and walk out.
And I think you're referring to later relationships, which is, how we met, or what, kind of,
I mean,
most in common about.
We have both experienced sort of this narcissistic cycle of abuse, which is the love bombing, which is insane. The love bombing. You finally feel like you've escaped from an individual, and then this cycle of tapping on the window until there's a tiny infinitesimal little crack, and then they just keep tapping and love bombing, and baby, it's so different this time, and I'm so changed, and here's all this litany of reasons why I'm so different now, and then you cave, and I have caved more than because I wanted to believe that the best version of that person was the real version. And then only to find out, not once, not twice, 3 times in this instance, that it just is the same. It's just the same. And then you've looked back at your life and you're like, man, that was 3 straight years of just believing this, believing something that you actually in my gut knew was wrong. You know what I mean? I knew in my gut that, because you're just holding your breath all the time. You're holding your breath all the time. And that is not a way to live in a relationship, is to feel like
someone who really has, narcissism gets tossed around a lot, and there are versions of it.
Yes.
But supposedly we all have a touch of narcissism.
Correct.
We think, well, what about me? But truly, narcissists do wear a mask. They are incapable of being one person, because who they are is, who they believe to be is just a zero, is a nothing. So they continue to change, and they are this chameleon and become whoever you need them to be. And so they find you because they know that there's something lacking in you, to where they're like, oh, I'm going to fill that spot.
Oh, yeah.
I know what
you're an easy target. I'm an easy target. Right. I'm the biggest empath in the world. I'm the most forgiving.
And that's not a dig. That's just, okay. Again, it's, what is my role in this? How am I allowing this to happen? And so when you are loved bombed, and, again, we're not speaking in specifics relationship wise. We are speaking in experiences that we both have had.
Correct.
Which is maybe more than one person, but the culmination of this personality is fake. That at the end of the day, they are fake. And so they seek you out, they realize what you need, and they become that. And so when we talk about love bombing, which sometimes people don't understand what that is, that is, you are the love of their life. And I'm not saying that you can't use that sort of language in real relationships, but this is right from the get-go. You're the person I've been looking for my whole life. You are my dream girl. You are everything I've ever wanted. What you have is, oh my gosh, this is it. And they do all the things you're like, I can take a breath. This is, you get me. That's all we really want at the end of the day, is to be understood. We don't have to be the same. We're not looking for perfection. We just want to be heard. And that means, as an action, like, agape love, it's an action. It's, you want to be heard, physically heard, if that makes sense. Not just, oh yeah, I'm listening. And yeah. But do you hear me? So that type of personality comes in and really acts like they hear you. And then it could be 6 months, it could be a year, it could be 2 years. And then all of a sudden they shut that off. And then you find yourself coming back to the, hey,
but wait,
what's wrong? You gave
it was
it
so
to me.
Great. What is
And
this?
Then
and
at the end of the day, you find yourself, well, gosh, if I just do this, or, oh, you know what? I'll go back to how it was before. Can we go back? And then you think you're crazy. And then you really do think you're crazy, because you're like, it must be me. I'm doing something wrong.
Oh, yeah. The psychological.
It's a mind fuck. All the fuckery.
It's a lot of fuckery.
Pot of stew. And
so much.
And
if I feel like I've tried to really dissect that personality type as much as I could, just to help me understand how did I fall into this, like, and what was my role in it all. And I think the real sadness is that those individuals don't really have a full understanding of what really love is, because they weren't loved in or they just didn't internalize how love really should feel, because for them it's about control. They associate love as control, which is, I giveth you this version of me, and then I take it,
because they don't know,
and I'm controlling the situation. I'm controlling it. And you're just
put it together in, like, it's okay and scene. And that's how it is, where they're acting the part, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so great. But they don't have it. They don't have the depth to provide it and really feel it. So
and because you love them, you want them to feel what real love is, and so you just love them and love them and love them, and you're like, but this is what loving someone really looks like. And so you come back to it, you think that you're helping them. It's just you're digging a shallow grave. It's just I've done it so many times. So
they don't change. And so, I mean, they change in terms of, oh, you need me to be this. And so there's so many terms. It's called hoovering. And you would have these conversations with me. I'm like, yeah, that's not going to work. Okay. I will tell you what I think.
The level of okay, so this is the most beautiful piece about Karen. Karen literally lived what I lived. And when our friendship started, I was just reeling and spiraling, and just the panic feelings that I felt, and just feeling like I never knew how to address a certain situation, because I was acting in a fear-based mindset with this individual. Just like, it was just so many things all the time. And she's like, I know. She gave me so much grace. She's like, I know that this feels wrong, and I know you don't know what to do about it, and I know that you want to just love them through it, but I'm telling you it's not going to work out. And she's like, but I know that you need to do this for yourself. You have to discover this for yourself. It's not going to be because I'm telling you so. And the most beautiful piece about this relationship that I have with her is that when it all fell apart, many times, she never said, I told you so. Never. And I feel like the only person that could ever do that and not be enticed into saying, I told you so, is someone that's lived through that same kind of fuckery and pain. And she's like, you can't be told that this is not going to work. You just have to walk through it and realize for yourself it isn't going to work. And then to have someone so beautiful like Karen not throw that mud in my face, but just say, I've been there too, and I did the same thing. That really, when I say like, this girl is like my ride or die, it's because of those types of, she just held me in her arms every single time. And
one of the sweetest things you said to me before, and I don't know why this sticks with me, which was, you said something about reaching out to me or something, and you're like, you always answer when I call. You
Yeah, I
always
never
answer. So
felt
knowing that
like here I
if I
am
need something,
crawling back. Correct. You
and I'm like,
always
of course
answer.
I would answer. Why would like you should hate me by now, or you should be like, I
Bitch,
cannot
when you gonna
fucking take
learn?
I
That's
cannot
what
talk
I
to you one
deserve
more
for you
minute
to
about
say to
this.
me. Right.
Like, I deserve you to hang the phone up on me right now. I'd be like, no, I get it.
Yes.
I understand. I
But you
understand the
don't.
physical pain that comes with it, and just wanting to believe so much in somebody, and that this is going to work out this time. And I swear it's different. I'm like, okay, well, okay. You just let me know how that goes, and giving you the background, but then also being like, just I'll be here.
Every time that I came back to you and said, I'm convinced he's different now. I'm convinced. He convinced me. I'm enrolling you in that. And you accepted that. And I know that you were like, and we'll just set our timer.
I'm like, I hope for the best. I hope
but never
that
made me feel that way. Like,
yeah. Well, good.
Okay.
Because I wouldn't want someone to do that to me if I'm going through the shit and the turmoil. It's, come on, I got you.
No, and I have to say, that is love.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing with a parent and a child relationship. It's like, I know they're going to mess up. I got to just be like, I'll be here when you're,
because
I'll be here.
It's like, it's unconditional. It's not like, it's, you can love people unconditionally. That doesn't mean you're a doormat, but it means that I see you. I see you. Mm-hmm. I see what you're struggling with. I have struggles. Mine might be different. But I think in this relationship, we see each other's struggles. We give each other grace. We tell each other to get the fuck off the phone, or like, okay, you're being an idiot right now, and I'm just going to say this to you, and this is what I think, and we can fight about it and be like, okay, I hear what you're saying, but I still got to do the thing. Mm-hmm. So there's love, and it's unconditional, but that doesn't mean that, we can't,
The other thing, and I know we've touched on this response tactic that you practice on me and I practice on you sometimes, is how would you like me to respond? Yeah. You always give me that option. Do you want me to tell you the hard truth, or do you want me to help you feel better in this moment? Do you want me to be a cheerleader for you, or do you want me to be a coach? Right. And when you pause long enough to give me those options, I always am like, give me the hard shit. Let's go. I can take it. Because I don't want to sit in my shit. I don't want to sit in my shit any longer than I have to.
And it's perspective too. It's like, do you want the truth, or do you want me to be supportive, or do you want the truth? Because I can go either way.
We can go either way, and a lot of times they're very different. They look very different, and right. And I think that the beauty in a loving friendship is that you always want the truth.
Right.
You always
want the
truth.
Best for each other, and the best for you isn't necessarily the best for me. And but we can stand back and recognize that, and what I want for you might not be the same that you want, because I know you want things for me, then I'm like, but because we're on our own. It's a journey, man. It's a journey.
Well, and I think that in summarizing this conversation, it's like, okay, so what did we learn? And so if I have to pull myself away from my dating history or relationship history, I think that there's two things. One is my needing to learn boundaries. My people pleasing comes from my childhood. We all want to be dutiful kids and be good girls and all of that, but there is a limit to that. And in adulthood, you have to learn your boundaries and execute your boundaries, because that's a level of respect as a human that you deserve. So that is lesson number one, is to be forgiving and loving, but boundaried. And there's nothing wrong with that. And so, and also the old lesson, believe who someone is the first time they show you. Like, when you get red flags, you've got to listen to them. Your gut, your womanly intuition is your best friend. And if you get the weird vibe, you need to act early and often on behalf of that. And then the third thing I think is, and this is really the most unsavory thing to have to unravel, is every time you go back to a relationship that is unhealthy, you have to really understand there's something in that for you. You're going back and there's something in it for you. And what is that? So finding that is confronting yourself in a way that is, you have to confront that in order to get to the healing.
really look in the mirror and like, what am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
What am I looking to get out of this? And am I trying to get someone to do something? Am I trying to control the situation? Am I trying to get them to love me better?
Or change or convert them somehow, or prove to everybody that they're not who they say, they're showing you with their actions, and you're trying to convince your family or whatever that they're a great guy, and now you've put you vouched for them. So there's some of that in there that you're just like, God, I don't want to be wrong again. Yes. So I'm going to gut it out so that I'm not wrong. Like, that's fucked up, right? So there's a lot there. And it's not set, like you said at the beginning, healing is never linear. Like, just when you feel like you've kind of gotten past certain things, something will happen, and then you just like are so taken back and spiraling, and that's okay. And I think understanding that, like, navigating that is also, I still have lots of triggers and sleepless nights, and
sure. And I think that's normal. And I think a lot of times with social media, because people think, oh my gosh, everything is perfect and this and that, this is, a peek inside the fact that no, I'm not perfect, and that we are all so similar. We're so much more similar than we are different. Mm-hmm. And we all have so many similar experiences, and that's what should bond us and bring us all together. But instead we're like, nah. So I think if we can take a step back and look at each other and be like, dang, I didn't realize she was going through that, or that did happen to me, and that makes me feel so much better about having bad days, and not thinking that I have to have my shit together 24/7, because nobody does.
Nobody.
No one does. So we can all pretend, and don't get me wrong, I show up, like we said, I show up with a happy face and I do my job, and that doesn't mean I don't get in my car and cry sometimes.
Fuck, right.
Or lose my shit.
We cry on Marco Polo to each other all the time.
Right. I'm like,
on our drives.
Yeah. Oh. So it's important to have those people in your life that you can break down to, and you can still live your life, have your career, and kick ass, but then take time away and be like, I'm struggling with something. I need to call you. And
I mean, God sent me you. Absolutely. If there's a gift in your life. Yes, if there's a gift in any of this pain or whatever it is, the lessons, all the relationships, or feeling like I failed how many times, like, my relationship, my marriage was a failure. I could label that. I could that. Oh, it is a failure. And then I had 3 boyfriends and they were all failures. And so there must be something wrong with me. Like,
I think that is
a trap.
Not a view of me.
That is a trap. But in any case, like, I could really give myself a whole big nasty, gnarly label, but really I'm just trying to do the best I can with what I got in that moment in my life, or that phase of my life. And I'm a good person, and I can't let myself get into that way of thinking. But what I want to say is, if the biggest gift in all of these things was you, my relationship with you was kind of born in that struggle. Like, you just saw me so clearly early in our relationship as being right where you were just a few short years before, and being like, oh girl, you just held my hand the whole way through it. So this podcast and our relationship, I feel like, as nervous as I was to kind of open that can, just because I do want to keep my private life very private. So talking about these things is very difficult for me, especially at this stage when I've really kind of, like, in terms of my public, I don't want to be public about anything in my personal life anymore, just because it's not worth the onslaught of questions and just invasiveness that people kind of get to. At the same time, it's such a worthwhile perspective in terms of the friendship I have with you, and why we decided to do this podcast at all. And so I think I'll get more courage, if we have other guests on and they want to talk about these types of things, being in a narcissistic relationship or any other kind of relationship. Like, I feel like, there's commonality, and there's a relatability. And for anyone listening that has felt these ways or has been through these types of things, I'm hoping that resonates with you, that you're not alone in a lot of that. And
I think there's healing in talking about it, though, too.
Yeah, there is.
There's healing in facing it, because even if you're facing it on the daily, it's facing it and saying it out loud. And I know sometimes when we say, I can't believe I'm saying this out loud right now, or I can't, it takes the fear away. And I think because I feel shame about a lot of that.
Yes.
And
I feel shame.
I think it helps take it away, because when you keep it in the dark, it's darker. If you bring it to the light, I think you see it a little bit differently. And I think the light, well, obviously takes away the darkness. I'm not using the analogy correctly, but it
doesn't eradicate it. It just sort of softens it a bit.
It does. And I think you see it, you change your perspective, because especially when you share it with a group or even one person, it's like, oh, okay, I'm not running away. That doesn't scare me. And it's just that, oh my gosh, it's the being able to exhale and feeling like, okay, this isn't freaking this person out, or I feel shame, but they're like, okay, that's not a shameful thing to me. And so it's the beautiful vision and just seeing that and being like, that's cool. I still love you.
I think it's this. If one of my all-time favorite quotes, and we can just leave it here maybe, and just cherry the conversation with this. One of my all-time favorite quotes is, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek." So by venturing into those dark places, it's like literally going into a cave and sparking a match and then suddenly seeing, oh my God, there's Karen. Karen's in there with me. And all these other faces are in here. We're all in here, fucked up and afraid. And going, wow, we put the flashlight on and you're like, oh, I'm not alone. You know, right. And by doing that, that is the work. That's the work. Going into the cave, that's where it is, to doing the work and getting on with it, and realizing just so much about your self-worth and what you really are looking for, and what your deal breakers are. And we can have a whole other conversation about like what's behavior you can tolerate and what's a deal breaker. That's about how to learn about boundaries, and maybe we can have some kind of expert on to talk about those kinds of things. But in any case, that's my story.
Well, thank you for sharing. I know that you probably had diarrhea before you came on today.
That's true.
Because I know how your guts work, and I know how
my cortisol goes way up, and I just head straight for the bathroom.
Like, hold please. That's how I am before I get on a plane. I'm like, I lose my life. Like, it's like Dumb and Dumber.
I just don't try not to eat for like 48 hours before I take a flight.
I was like, oh gosh. Like,
okay.
Yeah, but I get it.
Oh, guys, well, thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for all you guys out there listening. We really appreciate you being here. We hope to bring you all the juicy goodness next time.
I love you, girl. Thanks for sharing.
I love you, Karen. See ya. He just missed that. How's that for a cold open? That's a real hot open. That's a hot open.
I didn't know.
You don't need notes.
You do.
You know everything about me. It might be worth our while, just because we might wax and wane between like having like a really lively, upbeat guest that's just like a really excitable chat, to something that like today I'm inside my body right now going, fuck no.